Our next speaker is Dr. Angela Cooper, and she answers this question: how can we launch sustainability initiatives that actually make a difference? In her lightning talk, Dr. Angela Cooper, associate at BEworks, will walk you through a powerful case study demonstrating how understanding the psychological barriers to sustainability enables us to launch and test new solutions. We all know that companies are being judged for their CSR initiatives more than ever. That makes choosing the right sustainability initiatives and delivering impactful solutions that actually change behavior as being critical. Angela's expertise brings the behavioral science insights and rigorous empirical testing needed to ensure that the importance of these initiatives is matched by their effectiveness. Angela holds a PhD in linguistics at Northwestern University. She completed a research fellowship at the University of Toronto. Her work studying the psychology of human language development and how people adapt to change in their environments has been featured by CBC and CTV News. At BEworks, Angela uses her expertise in behavior change to solve sustainability challenges such as food waste reduction. Dr. Cooper, over to you.
My mother is someone who doesn't believe in waste. She's the kind of person who washes out and reuses empty margarine tubs or even Ziploc sandwich bags. She finds ways to use up every scrap of food. Leftovers are reimagined into different meals. Meatloaf for dinner one night becomes sandwiches for lunch the next. I've got memories of being scolded for not turning out the lights when I left the room because it was a waste of energy. I'm sure most of us have family members who are like this. And we attribute it to a kind of bygone age where they weren't necessarily concerned with abstract environmental ideals, but very pragmatic considerations, the need to save money and conserve their resources in a time when such things were scarce. But over the last several decades, waste has become a sign of prosperity. The ability to continually purchase new clothing or new products, to have multiple cars to service a family's transportation needs, to lay out tables groaning with food. All of this has become markers of our success. But this kind of indulgence has not been without consequence. For instance, we produce over 300 million tons of plastic waste each year. And if trends continue, our oceans could contain more plastic than fish by 2050. 1/3 of all food produced in the world, over 1 billion tons, goes to waste. Deforestation, the burning of fossil fuels for electricity, heat, and transportation, all of this has contributed to our current climate crisis. The concentration of CO2 in our atmosphere as of summer 2021 is the highest it's been in human history. Take food waste, for instance. If food wastage were a country, it would be the 3rd largest CO2 emitting nation in the world. Unchecked, all of this will have severe consequences. Climate change could result in more than 100 million people returning to extreme poverty by as soon as 2030. So we've come to realize that many of the kinds of behaviors that my mother engaged in can't just be quaint memories of how our parents or our grandparents used to act, but are in fact critical and necessary behaviors for ensuring our planet's future. Thankfully, an increasing number of people recognize that they want to do something, that they want to start engaging in sustainable behaviors. And this is increasingly reflected at the corporate level, in a recent shift by many global corporations from shareholder capitalism, that is, serving their own corporate purpose and shareholders, towards stakeholder capitalism, committing to an investment in their employees, their suppliers, and the environment. And indeed, many major corporations have taken up the climate challenge by introducing their own sustainability initiatives, aligning themselves, for instance, with the UN Sustainability Development Goals. But while the motivation to act may be on the rise, how to best to meet this challenge and actually change our behavior is still a difficult question. The urgency of this climate challenge needs to be matched with rigor and the scientific method. The fact is, we don't have the time to be investing resources into sustainability initiatives that simply don't yield the necessary impact with consumers. Many of the requisite steps to mitigating this climate crisis involve changing people's behavior. And as such, Leveraging insights from behavioral science research will be key, as it will enable the more efficient development of sustainability strategies that can effectively target and overcome barriers to the desired behaviors, maximizing the potential impact of such strategies. It will also be critical to use rigorous testing to validate that impact and determine the efficacy of such interventions. Taking this kind of evidence-based approach involving research, strategy, and impact will ensure that resources can be invested in the right places. Now, what could this actually look like in practice? Let me provide you a case study to illustrate. So Unilever is one such company who recognizes the value of taking this approach. And in partnership with Hellmann's, BEworks tackled the challenge of reducing household food waste with a multi-phase, iterative testing approach involving research, strategy development, and impact measurement. So we gathered primary data and drew upon scientific research to help inform our understanding of what factors influence the magnitude of a household's food waste output, to help us determine where and how to intervene. And from this research phase, we learned that rather than focusing on helping people plan or shop better to prevent a surplus of food entering the home, that a fruitful starting place for interventions would be to help people recover the food they already have and save it from being thrown out. Because no matter how well we plan, life gets in the way, and we need a strategy for what to do when it does. So to help shape that strategy, we first needed to understand the psychological journey of food recovery so that we could design interventions accordingly. So recovering food in one's home involves first rediscovering what food you actually have. That is, seeing that piece of carrot or celery stalk that's buried in the back of the fridge. Next, it's about reevaluating that food, so determining whether or not you think it's actually fit to be eaten. And finally, repurposing that food into new meals. And so based on this strategic framework, we designed interventions to help support these stages of food recovery. Specifically, we developed interventions to help people better see the food they have by increasing its salience in the fridge, and an intervention to help people figure out how to use up their food. So here, we provided an easy rule of thumb to use during meal preparation to encourage flexibility and creativity. And to make things even easier, we simply asked people to choose one day per week to use that rule of thumb to help make a meal using the food they already have. Now, it wasn't enough to just develop these interventions. It was also critical to determine what kind of impact they actually have on food waste. And so we conducted a randomized control trial over 5 weeks, one of the largest field studies of its kind, testing over 900 families in Canada. One group received just our Use Up intervention. Other groups received both the Use Up intervention plus a tool to help increase that food salience. And so we tracked their self-reported food waste over 5 time points. And while all groups started with roughly the same amount of food waste at the beginning of the study, we saw that those who received our interventions significantly reduced their food waste over time relative to control participants who received no interventions. And in fact, households who received our interventions saw a 33% reduction from their baseline in self-reported food waste in just 1 month. And you can see that all our intervention groups were equally effective. And this means that certain interventions, specifically our salience tools to help people see what they have, didn't help people reduce their food waste above and beyond the Use Up intervention alone. And so this highlights the critical need to test for impact. By conducting this field study, we now know that developing and distributing tools to increase food salience would not be a good use of time or resources when this initiative is scaled up globally, saving Hellmann's thousands of dollars and man-hours that could be put to better use. So this case study demonstrates that having an empirical framework helped us to determine not just the how, but the how much. That is, how to develop sustainability strategies, but also how much real-world impact they can have. So the future depends on companies and their consumers taking decisive action, making changes to their behavior that actually have an impact. And for companies engaged in sustainability initiatives, behavioral science, its methods and its insights, provides that way forward to have the kind of impact with consumers and our environment that's so sorely needed.